Long before cameras, before satellites, before the internet wrapped itself around the globe like a nervous system, the Watchers were already here. Every empire has its invisible priesthood. The scribes in the tower, the secret police behind. The veil, the ones who don't just guard power, but define what it means to be free. In ancient Babylon, called them scribes of the temple. In Rome, they were informants for the Senate. In East Germany, Stasi. And in the modern West, the name is quieter. 3 letters. NSA. In 2013, one man stepped out of the shadows and confirmed what we already felt, but couldn't prove. Edward Snowden. He wasn't a rebel. He wasn't a prophet. He was a systems analyst, trained in silence, fluent in code, invisible by design. From a hotel room in Hong Kong, curtains drawn, fear in his lungs, he leaked thousands of classified documents. And in a single moment, he lit a match inside the global control room. The names in those files were strange: Prism, X-Core, Boundless Informant. But the message was simple: you were already being watched. Billions of calls, texts, and emails harvested. It's not by enemies, but by the very systems you trusted. And the worst part? It wasn't to stop crime. It was to predict you. Your searches, your hesitations, your keystrokes fed into algorithms not just to remember, but to forecast. What Snowden revealed wasn't a flaw in democracy. It was its replacement. Because when surveillance becomes predictive, and prediction becomes preemptive, you don't need to build walls around a population. You just need to make them believe someone's always watching. And once that belief takes root, you don't have to punish the disobedient. You just let the obedient police themselves. The watcher becomes internal. You speak more carefully. You scroll more politely. You censor thoughts before they form. That is the true genius. Of modern surveillance, it doesn't force obedience. It invents it. Snowden didn't just reveal a system. He revealed a mirror. And in it, we saw the truth. We weren't prisoners. We were participants, volunteering to be watched, smiling, scrolling, uploading the blueprint of our souls. In exchange for convenience, validation, and the illusion of safety. This wasn't the death of freedom. It was its quiet redefinition, and it marked the birth of something far more powerful than government oversight. It was the genesis of a new operating system, one that turns trust into code, privacy into myth, and the human mind into open terrain. A system we now live inside without knowing it has a name in the eye. The one that once lived in towers and pulpits no longer blinks, because now we're the ones watching ourselves. What Snowden revealed in 2013 was just the doorway. Cables, the programs, the black budget documents, they were symptoms. The real system came after. A vast, borderless network of intelligence alliances, corporate pipelines, and behavioral modeling engines. Not a surveillance state. A surveillance species. This system doesn't just record, it anticipates. And then it begins to edit reality before you even act. Across continents, nations formed alliances like the Five Eyes, the Nine Eyes, the 14 Eyes, to exchange live surveillance feeds, facial recognition scans, and metadata in real time. Private companies joined the net. Social platforms, telecoms, banks, cloud providers, trading in your behavior, your language, your GPS coordinates, every digital step, every biometric scan, every unconscious hesitation, stored, scored, and sold. And this is where the true mechanism is revealed. Surveillance is no longer about watching. It's about predicting. And once a system can predict your behavior, it can shape it, suppress it, exploit it, rewrite it. You don't need to be watched forever. You only need to be predictable enough to be preemptively controlled. This is no longer science fiction. It's a predictive architecture of control so vast and so subtle. Most people live inside it without knowing it has a name. Today, you are not tracked as punishment. You are modeled for profit, scored for compliance, guided by invisible hands toward approved outcomes. And the most devastating truth, you don't resist it. You scroll with it, sleep beside it, You trust it more than you trust yourself. This is the hidden evolution of power. Not surveillance to protect you, surveillance to define you. If you want to control a population, you don't start with the laws, you start with the story. In 1929, dozens of elegant women marched in New York's Easter Parade, lighting cigarettes and calling them torches of freedom. Looked like a spontaneous protest for women's rights. But it wasn't. It was a marketing campaign. The man behind it was Edward Bernays, nephew of Sigmund Freud, working for the American Tobacco Company. Using psychoanalytic theory, he turned a male vice into a feminist symbol and made Lucky Strike a household name. He didn't sell cigarettes. He sold an identity. And in doing so, pioneered a technique that would reshape the modern world, the engineering of consent. Decades later, two media theorists, Edward Herman and Noam Chomsky, unveiled how this system evolved. In their book, Manufacturing Consent, they showed how the news, the narratives, so-called facts we consume each day, aren't selected for truth, but for obedience. In Operation Hollywood, journalist David Robb revealed how the Pentagon has influenced hundreds of movies from Rambo to Transformers, offering tanks, aircraft, carriers, and military consultants. In exchange for script control, every gunfight, every heroic soldier, every noble war, carefully choreographed the goal, not just entertainment, indoctrination. It doesn't stop with the movies. Your feed your search results. Your recommendations are controlled by algorithms designed to manipulate dopamine, trigger impulses, and hijack attention. As former Google ethicist Tristan Harris warned in The Social Dilemma, the algorithm has no ethical constraint. It simply optimizes for engagement, no matter the psychological cost. Meanwhile, education systems are stripped of philosophy, ethics, and real-world wisdom, producing citizens who know how to follow instructions, but not how to question them. Universities, once cathedrals of inquiry, are now factories of specialization and ideological obedience. Pharmaceutical giants, too, shape the game. As conditions like sadness, fear, or boredom are recoded into diagnosable disorders, the solution is always the same: medicate, not meditate. Natural human experience becomes pathology. Personal transformation becomes chemical compliance. Even food is weaponized. Fast food, processed sugar, and engineered cravings aren't just unhealthy. They're neurologically addictive, designed to dull cognition and spike emotional volatility so people stay tired, distracted, and dependent. And in this landscape of engineered fear, craving, and tribal outrage, you become programmable. This is not a glitch in the system. It is the system. Every layer of society, media, medicine, marketing, education, orchestrated not to liberate you, but to mold you, the result. A population that not only follows the script, but defends it. Because when the mind is conditioned through repetition, reward, and fear, you don't need to be forced. Domain 1. What most people call entertainment is often just indoctrination with better lighting. For over 50 years, the U.S. Department of Defense has quietly shaped Hollywood's output. As journalist David Robb revealed in Operation Hollywood, the Pentagon provides filmmakers with helicopters, tanks, aircraft carriers, but only in exchange for script approval. In other words, if you want the gear, you tell the story their way. That's why films like Top Gun, Black Hawk Down, and Transformers feel like recruitment ads, because they are. This is perception warfare. The goal: to associate militarism with heroism, to train generations to see war as noble, necessary, inevitable. But it goes beyond film. News media uses a technique known as agenda-setting theory, not to tell you what to think, but to control what you think about. By flooding airwaves with outrage, crime, and division, they keep your attention glued to fear and away from power, because distracted minds don't rebel. They refresh. Domain 2. Technology and social PL, FORMSN, the digital age. Surveillance stopped being secret. It became a feature. Every swipe, every hesitation, every click is recorded, scored, and used to train the machine. As whistleblowers, like Tristan Harris exposed, platforms like Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube aren't designed for connection. They're designed for addiction, engineered by behavioral neuroscientists. Your feed is a neural feedback loop, optimizing for outrage, arousal, tribal conformity. And behind it all is the real currency: predictive data. The goal isn't just to keep you scrolling, it's to make sure your next move is already calculated. And what happens when everyone's behavior becomes predictable? Free will becomes a branding slogan, and algorithms become the new priests of reality. Domain 3, the modern education. System designed in the industrial age was never built to liberate minds. It was built to standardize labor, critical thinking, philosophical debate, creative risk, systematically stripped away. In their place, obedience, compliance, and ideological alignment. As Chomsky once said, the whole educational and professional training system is a very elaborate filter, which just weeds out people who are too independent. Universities today produce credentialed technicians, not thinkers, not rebels, and the result is a society full of specialists who know how to follow rules, but not how to question the rule makers. Domain 4. Control the body, and the mind follows. Pharmaceutical companies don't just sell pills, they redefine what it means to be human. Normal sadness becomes depression. Natural fear becomes an anxiety disorder. Distracted children become lifelong patients. The more conditions we name, the more chemicals we sell. Meanwhile, the food industry engineers cravings. As Michael Moss revealed in Salt, Sugar, Fat, processed foods are designed through neuroscience to activate dopamine loops, ensuring that hunger never ends. The result? A population that's chronically foggy, inflamed, and exhausted, too tired to question, too distracted to resist. All by design, because a dependent body becomes a programmable mind. Each domain alone would be troubling, but together they form a seamless structure of engineered obedience, a world where perception is scripted, behavior is predicted, and identity itself is manufactured. And the worst part, not just inside it, we're addicted to it. They don't need to control your thoughts. They just need to control what comes before your thoughts. For decades, behavioral scientists have known something most people still don't. You make decisions before you realize you've made them. Nobel Prize-winning economist Daniel Kahneman, in his landmark work Thinking Fast and Slow, showed that the human brain operates on two systems. System 1, fast, automatic, emotional. System 2, slow, logical, deliberate. Deliberate. The vast majority of daily choices, what you buy, who you trust, what you fear, happen in System 1 without conscious awareness. And if you can control System 1, you don't need to win an argument. You just need to trigger a feeling. This is where the engineers of consent live. They don't present facts. They deploy images. You tap into instincts, fear of exclusion, desire for status, the comfort of conformity. In modern advertising, this is called neuromarketing, the use of brain scans, eye tracking, and emotional analytics to design content that bypasses logic and hits your subconscious controls. You weren't persuaded, you were activated. The ad didn't sell you the product. It sold you the emotion of already owning it. And this method isn't limited to commerce. Politics now runs on emotional contagion, color schemes, slogans. Music swells, all crafted to short-circuit reason and stimulate tribal impulse. Cognitive biases are exploited like buttons on a machine. Confirmation bias to feed your worldview. Authority bias to make you obey. Expert scarcity bias to drive urgency and panic. Social proof to make you follow the crowd. In the most dangerous part, you feel like you chose it, but the choice was already framed. The illusion of freedom preserved, even as the outcome was designed. This is the art of weaponized psychology. Control the emotion, and the action follows. Because in the hands of those who understand the brain, your feelings are just code, and you, a behavioral program waiting to be written. It's one thing to understand that emotions can be manipulated. It's another to realize there are blueprints, systems, protocols designed to manipulate entire populations at scale. This is no longer theory. This is engineering. Strategy. 1. Fear triggers the classic Lalafa. Oldest mechanism of control is the one that still works best. Problem gives reaction. Give solution. You don't need to control a nation. You just need to create a crisis. Wait for panic. And then offer the pre-planned solution. 9/11s. The Patriot Act. Mass. Surveillance justified as protection. Fear narrows vision. And in a narrowed mind, freedom becomes negotiable. The terrified citizen doesn't beg for rights, they beg for safety. Then doing so, they authorize their own cage. Strategy 2. People believe what others believe, especially if those others are liked, followed, or trending. This is the psychology of social proof. It bypasses logic by whispering, look, everyone else agrees. But in the digital world, consensus is programmable. Algorithms amplify voices that serve the narrative, suppress those that challenge it, and fabricate false majorities. Looks like the will of the people is often just the will of the platform. Strategy 3. Distraction. There's a reason TikTok, YouTube Shorts, and Instagram Reels all work the same way. Short bursts of dopamine, rapid novelty emotionally. Loaded content, this isn't just entertainment. It's attention capture, because as long as you're staring at a screen, you're not questioning who built it. Give them bread in circuses, the Romans said. Today it's Wi-Fi and endless scroll. Distraction is the anesthetic of control. And the longer you stay numb, the less you remember you're in pain. Strategy 4. Modern control doesn't eliminate options. It floods you with them. You're not asked to choose between truth and lie. You're given a buffet of branded lies and told to pick your favorite, left or right, red or blue, Apple or Android. All roads lead to the same. Gatekeepers. This is called controlled opposition, the manufacturing of fake alternatives. To give you the illusion of agency, it's not censorship by force, it's censorship by design. Because when every path is paved by the same architect, freedom becomes a performance. And you, an actor, reading lines you never wrote. Together, these strategies form an ecosystem of obedience. Not enforced by soldiers, but by incentives. It's not guarded by walls, but by screens. And the most powerful part, you participate, you share, you comment, you fight for your side. And the system watches, quietly updating your profile because in the age of engineered consent, disobedience is the only true rebellion. You were never just being watched. You were being trained. It's not to obey orders, but to forget you ever had a choice. They didn't chain your body. They choreographed your attention. 1,000 invisible threads woven through screens, algorithms, likes, fears, dreams. This is not a prison you wake up in. It's one you scroll into, smiling, sharing, selecting your cell wallpaper. And yet, somewhere beneath the programming, a quiet part of you remembers. A flicker that there was a time before the watching, before the eye, before you outsourced your instincts to systems that measured your soul in microseconds. In metadata, Snowden lit the match, but the fire must be carried by those who still feel the heat of forgotten freedom, because the final stage of surveillance isn't control, it's consent. A world where silence is agreement, where obedience feels like safety, where the prison becomes sacred because you helped build it. But here, in this moment of seeing you become dangerous again, you remember that privacy was never a right, it was a ritual, the temple of the self, and they defiled it. So the question is not what they did. The question is what you will do now, knowing you were both the watcher and the watched, because the eye no longer lives in the tower. It lives in your reflection. And when you look back into it, the system holds its breath